He was referencing the Tyler the Creator calls himself that. I just don't. I don't know what the deal is. I didn't look into it, to be honest. Like, I didn't look into it because I've just been mourning John McCain. I've been watching the funeral live stream over and over again, crying. You know, thinking about how, you know, John McCain represented just radical centrism. Not really, but, you know, that's what a lot of people want to think. So, yeah, I've just been so distraught over John McCain's grave. Yeah, it's a little ridiculous at this point. It's like, all right, dude, you know. Anyway, Eminem has said it a lot before too, though. Well, I mean, I think back when Eminem said it a lot, it was like debated as to. I mean, not doesn't make it right, but let's remember what the culture was like back then, right? It was definitely a lot more different than now, and people were like trying to have a conversation as to whether it was even like contextually like anti-gay as a slur. It was, of course, and like I said, as a collective we decided that it was bad, and even back then people knew that it was bad. But I still remember the South Park episode, you know what I mean? Like, not saying that the South Park episode is important, but it provides a cultural reference point, you know, to give you an understanding of whether or not this is considered hate speak at the time. There was an entire episode dedicated to whether to the F word not being considered a hate slur, that you can be gay and an F word, but mostly it has nothing to do with being gay, blah blah blah, all that stuff. You know what I mean? So, like, Eminem was he said a lot worse things than that too. I mean, he very graphically his depictions of like domestic abuse were super violent too. On top of that, I mean, you just, like I said, you can't. That's why cancel culture in certain elements gets a little ahead of itself. Yeah, he made multiple songs about killing his ex-wife. Like, so he's done way more indefensible shit. But the reality is, like, like I said, it was just it was a different time back then. I'm not saying this to I'm not saying this to escape it. I feel like a lot of people always misunderstand when others say, like, it was a different time back then. People get very upset. They're like, oh, fuck you, how dare you. No, it's like, no, dude, people aren't. Yeah, no, calling people out is fine, but like, I don't know. It's just like you can't get mad at Eminem for selling a best-selling album when he probably, in his heart of hearts at least, or virtually, when like the majority of society thought that it wasn't it wasn't the wrong thing to say. And the reference I will use for you guys, for you to understand etymology and how different it is, and I'm not a linguist, right? I'm not like a professional rhetorician or anything, but what I can tell you is this. This is a perfect example, and I've used this on the stream before, okay? Get ready. The word lame is ableist. Lame is referred to people who can't walk. They have a lame, like lame duck, they have a lame leg, lame election, whatever. But that concept is completely ableist. But no one would ever assume that when you think about it. And everyone says, yo, that shit's lame as fuck. That shit's lame. All of this is lame. So what's up? Are we gonna now, can you imagine if you got mad at someone for using the word lame right now, 40 years from now, when people have decided that it's lame? That's the best way to describe it, okay? Because lame is ableist. So was the R word. But it was acceptable back then. You know what I mean? Shut up, Barn Attack. I'm just saying, like, I'm not a professional when it comes to like analyzing etymology or analyzing like where certain words come from and shit, but you guys see what I'm saying, right? Like, if people are coming out and using words that we've as a whole, as a collective, decided that it's bad, for example, the N-word, people are doing that now, then it's understandable to get upset at them and to try to correct their behavior. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't understand the severity. At this point, it seems unlikely, but I would still always maintain a presumption of innocence until they demonstrate that they're not, you know what I mean? Until they demonstrate that they're like, oh, I don't care. Because, like, a lot of people react by doubling down when they get called out, which is also, in some respects, understandable. But anyway. I don't know. I just don't think that, like, I don't know if people genuinely grow from being called out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they do. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Because, like, after all, in the end of the day, the idea behind cancel culture, or the idea behind progressive movements, is ultimately to ensure that, yeah, I stay growing because I eat one meal a day. No, I'm eating my curry chicken again, but it's just like, I didn't want to eat on camera because it's so hard to just, like, angle the camera appropriately and shit. So I'm almost done anyway. So, but do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, even when people say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I apologize," like, do you guys really think they understand what they did? And anything aside from feeling apologetic, or do you think they actually take active steps to change their behavior? Because, like, people that are well-intentioned, once they get called out, like, not publicly, mind you, I'm talking about private call-outs. Once people who, like, you know, if someone you love or appreciate or respect or admire comes up to you and says, hey, don't do that, that's actually bad, and you have a long conversation about it, that's when it's actually healthy and that's when it's actually productive. But on the internet, when people are like, oh, don't say this, don't do this, and you get called out for your past behavior, I don't think that actually is productive. Not saying that we shouldn't do it all together, because there are certain, like, yeah, but when it's not even a private call out, when it's a private conversation, it's more meaningful because it's not necessarily, like, a call out seems somewhat selfish. It's like someone is committing someone is breaking social norms, and then you're looking at that and going, oh, here's how that makes me feel. It's not necessarily defensive. It seems like it's offensive most of the time, and that's what I think a lot of people have a hard time getting on board with call out culture. You know what I mean? Not, like I said, I'm not even saying that it's bad across the board. Like, a lot of people have a hardline stance to that. A lot of people have a hardline stance against canceling people, all this stuff. A lot of you have a hardline stance for canceling people, you know? Privately, it is more of a caring conversation, absolutely. Thank you, Jojo J. Rowe. Yeah, I can't help but agree with Morgan in what she's saying. That cancel culture is stupid because they don't care about helping people actually change. They don't care about helping people actually change, but they just want people's careers to end without actually educating them. It's weird, guys. I think it, and my speculation on this, my fucking nuclear take on this, is that our call-out culture and our understanding of cancel culture absolutely is, it absolutely derives from our draconian understanding of punitive measures. In America, a lot of people are very prone to punish bad behavior, and this comes out in all avenues, right? This comes out in any sort of punishment or any sort of regulatory force, but especially in like especially when it comes to our social setting. A lot of people are incredibly draconian. They're draconian when it comes to like pushing for specific punitive measures. They're draconian when it comes to accepting that people have the tendency to change and to rehabilitate themselves after they've demonstrated that they're sorry or demonstrated that they're wrong. All of this stuff is really problematic. Ultimately, even as a leftist, as a progressive, I think that is genuinely problematic, because even those who are on the left also subscribe to that without realizing what they're doing. You guys see what I'm saying? And like, I have the best, like, I'm not saying this as a person who's like, you know, when a lot of people make these arguments, you know exactly what their background is, right? You know exactly why they're saying it. Like, if Mike Cernovich is making this argument, he has a very different reason to make this argument. He's just covering his own bases because he's been attacked a million times and he's generally a piece of shit. But damn, Arcana of Light, you're leaving already? That's crazy. Someone call for a friend who's a girl. Who do I give my application to? Well, yeah, do you guys see what I'm saying about cancel culture and how hey Arya, and how our like our draconian understanding here in America, in the United States culture, is a huge. Oh, I thought you were leaving. Oh, never mind. I thought you were like, oh, good afternoon. And anyway, how that extends to our the way we regard like socially canceling people or turning people into social pariahs. The other interesting thing is that it doesn't even necessarily work, even from outcasting people, right? I mean, look at Mel Gibson, like a person who definitely deserved to be canceled, a person who demonstrated that they were not actually apologetic for the things that they had done. He's fine now, you know, he's back. So, like, even if the intention originally was to cancel someone for good, it doesn't even necessarily work. So all we're doing at that point is just genuinely terrifying other people who are like, everyone's bad. I could easily be framed in a similar fashion. You see what I'm saying? So it creates this negative environment that doesn't foster conversation. Where people are afraid of speaking their truth or speaking their minds on any given subject because they're fearful that someone might come out to get them. And I think that is again, that is somewhat dangerous and somewhat an aspect, an element of the left that definitely deserves a little bit more of a constructive approach. Yeah, that's Arya's right. You're absolutely right. We wouldn't have to cancel people if we didn't put them on such a high pedestal in the first place, when they're just flawed people just like everyone else. I say this all the time, guys. I've said fucking horrible shit in the past. I've tried to be edgy. You know, I'm a product of my environment in the end of the day. And so is everyone else. And every single person on this stream probably at some point today, or at least at some point this week, said something that was fucking god-awful, and you turned to your friends and you said, oh God, if anyone else heard this, I would be in a lot of trouble. Because everyone operates that way, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's real. It's no different than like looking at a video game and playing a violent video game and not necessarily turning out to be a fucking school shooter. Anyway, so those are my opinions. But listen, this isn't to say that certain ways of framing in a contextual way to describe how certain people think or operate, is especially if they're continuously making a living off of that, or continuously saying those things while also presenting themselves differently. That's different. And what I'm of course referring to is like a Ben Shapiro type. Like, Ben Shapiro is a political pundit. His entire thing is that he's very well put together, well crafted. His entire perspective is around dehumanizing already marginalized groups, right? So when you use his Arabs like to live in sewage and bomb shit to show that he is a racist person, because that's no different than the many different fucking articles that he's written on, from Town Hall to Breitbart, as some of you always forget. This guy that got a fucking puff piece in the New York Times used to write for Breitbart, but then he was like, hey guys, you guys are like the anti-Semitism, not cool. Like, I'll take a little bit of the anti-Semitism, but now it's getting too anti-Semitic for me, so I'm out, guys. Anyway, so as I was saying, like when you're using like previous tweets or statements, when it comes to like a Ben Shapiro type, who, it's not like Ben Shapiro turned over a fucking new leaf, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he decided, he's like, hey guys, I'm really sorry about the things I've said in the past. Like, I'm a fucking liberal now. Like, I think you know, we really gotta approach the state of Israel in a more critical fashion. I think what they're doing is like, you know, genuinely creating an apartheid state. Like, it's not like it's not like he's fucking turned a new leaf. Like, that's still Ben Shapiro. He very much actively makes money talking about those matters in a similar fashion. So when you're using his previous tweets, like, it makes sense. That's just my perspective. Why are you itching? Only objects when it affects him personally. What do you mean? Sporcoon. What do you mean, Sporcoon? Oh, you're talking about Breitbart and anti-Semitism. Got it. Anyway, that's kind of where I stand on, like, cancel culture. This is actually something I've never really talked about, and that's one of the things I like about Twitch, really, is that I have the opportunity to just, like, really get into it and describe certain things exactly how I feel. And of course, like, you know, I'm still gonna have a hard time because this is off the cuff. I'm still gonna have a hard time fully describing to you guys exactly what I mean, but you know, I hope I was a little bit more helpful, and you know, you guys got to see how I genuinely feel. This conversation is really what is the statute of limitations on racism? I think the fact that their apologies are so tone deaf shows that they actually haven't changed. And what is the litmus test for who should be canceled? Okay, say the F word, but not be like Ben Shapiro. Does it depend on who's affected by those words? I'm gonna have a thread on Twitter canceling me now, probably. The thing is, like, I obviously also participate in this. Like, I obviously also participate in cancel culture, as do most of you. But the way I look at it is, like, if they've demonstrated, for me, it's like demonstrating that they are doing this. They know better. They're doing this despite knowing better, and they consistently have done this. And maybe they're profiting in one way, shape, or form by doing that problematic behavior. Those are some elements and that's just for me. You guys can have a completely different element here. Again, and by the way, Shinoge is not wrong. Like, I'm a white passing dude. They call me the sand N-word every day, but it doesn't bother me. I come from Turkey, which is largely like an imperial power. So of course, my history is of the oppressor, even though we don't have a racial dynamic similar to the one in America. But like I said, I personally have no dog in this fight, so it's hard. Like, when it comes to racism or when it comes to homophobia, like, it doesn't impact me. So I can't speak about that from the position of someone who genuinely is hurt by these words. And I also do understand the necessity for cleaning up language, as you guys also know. And what I mean by that is, like, I understand the necessity of cleaning up language because, like, certain terms and certain stereotypes have been used as a tool to oppress marginalized people historically. So of course I get that. So of course I understand when people use the F word, for example, like, why they're doing that, and or why that's problematic. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not discounting the entirety of all of that. I knew you would like that, dude. I knew you would like that, Space. God damn it. I haven't listened to it yet. Words have power. That's like Witchcraft 101. I love that. Like, the thing I don't understand is, like, when it comes to cancel culture and when it comes to identity politics as a whole, sometimes, and of course I obviously believe in that, but there are certain elements of it where, like, for example, when we can't fucking get mad at John McCain, even though he's a horrific person, like, he's a horrific piece of shit, but we can't get mad at John McCain because the media portrays him as a darling, that he is a rather polite person when the cameras are on. So what? Is it okay that he's a fucking war criminal? Is it a heartwarming moment when a person who sanctioned George W. Bush, a very modern day war criminal who has caused so much unnecessary conflict around the world, or Dick Cheney? Is it heartwarming when George W. Bush shares a fucking chocolate with Michelle Obama at John McCain's funeral? Why? Because they haven't said the fucking N-word? Who's worse, George W. Bush or some random dipshit who doesn't know any better who fucking says the N-word while they're singing along to a song? Let's have that conversation. This is what really frustrates me, because that is the blind spot that we have. That we always assume, like, a lot of people always assume, like, oh, if someone is saying something wrong, there must be an evil person. And it doesn't take into account that, like, people aren't that way. People have bad thoughts. Some people are stupid and they actually say those bad things. And yeah, being good or bad is completely subjective too. Thank you, Brad. You're absolutely right. So that's what genuinely frustrates me when we talk about these sort of when we talk about this sort of stuff. I mean, we just say, like, oh, there's context, there's nuance, but, like, ultimately, okay, look, I'm telling you, George W. Bush tortured people. Literally fucking tortured people. He is one of the worst criminals, one of the worst war criminals of all time. George W. Bush. People love him. Because what? We're not canceling George W. Bush because he didn't say the fucking N-word, or he didn't say the F word? Is that why? That's why we're not canceling George W. Bush? Like, that's what I mean. Like, do you see how silly that sounds when you... Oh, okay, sorry, Shinoge. I thought you were saying that, like, I was aggravating you. But yeah, mad is ableist. Lame is ableist. I talked about this already. Mad is an ableist slur. Lame is an ableist slur. Insane is an ableist slur. Crazy is an ableist slur. You guys see what I'm saying? So, like, you need to analyze things from thinking, like, you need to always think about what it was like back then, what the culture was like back then. That isn't saying that, like, you know, that isn't to say that, I don't know. That isn't, Jesus Christ, I'm getting a lot of notifications, sorry. The girlfriend tweet has blown up. I said something like, girls out here really trying to go to escape rooms for a date. And a lot of people have reacted to that personally by sending me text messages. That's what Barn Attack. Bush is way worse than Donald Trump still to this day, just so you know. I do legitimately still maintain this position. Donald Trump's body count is not as high as George W. Bush. And that's the tea, sis. Just saying. I mean, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is better than fucking... Donald Trump is horrible. It's like, who's worse, Hitler or Mussolini? Like, they're pretty bad. Yeah, it's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. People do a really poor job of showing the same level of empathy for the people Bush and Cheney tortured and people drone struck by Obama. Yeah, all of it is so fucked up. It's so fucked up, but they're polite, guys. They're polite. They're so polite, dude. So what's up? I'm using a blue snowball. What are we gonna do? What are we not canceling those guys? Are we not canceling Henry Kissinger? I'm the fucking douchebag when I get upset that people are fucking losing their goddamn minds celebrating John McCain. There's Bush deserves to be thrown in Guantanamo Bay. Like, him alone. And him and all of the architects of the Iraq War. Those are the only people who still deserve to be inside of Guantanamo Bay. Gitmo. Whatever. Anyway. Pimp Action Link, the fact that Trump has gotten laid is a testament that capitalism has gone too far. That's what that is. Yeah, Naja, this was in the context of cancel culture, just so you know. Because we were talking about the blind spots of cancel culture and how like it does have a tendency to go too far. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. The civility argument is especially ridiculous because the ones advancing it are Republicans, and you really that is hilarious. You know what I mean? Like just fucking yesterday, a GOP a politician had to resign for calling black people baboons, dude. You want to fucking talk about civility? Like you want to fucking talk about civility when there was a concept such as birtherism. Like people thought Obama wasn't American because he was black. You want to talk about fucking civility? That was like the most popular concept in the GOP. Yes, canceling Kanye for saying slavery was a choice is drastically different than like random people that we find on Twitter who are wearing like let's say like a Chinese outfit for prom, and like then one random Chinese American dude is like, oh fuck you, I'm gonna show you, random girl, and then gets 700,000 retweets from other people who want to feel also like they have contributed to this conversation in a meaningful way. Yeah, well, I don't know. That's the sort of stuff where even if it's cultural appropriation in that regard, it's like we always forget, like, yes, Chinese people have been marginalized here in the United States, but like, I don't know. I have a soft spot for that because like I have a soft spot for that because the guy who fucking was like dragging her turns out was like using the N-word and doing all this shit and like talking about fucking and appropriating culture in other ways as well himself. And that's what the annoying part about it is, because like again, everyone does shit like that. That is not you're not cleaning anything up at that moment. But again, that's my perspective. I'm a fucking globalist cuck, and I do believe in cultural appreciation. There are certain elements of that, of course, that are genuinely dangerous or genuinely exploitative, but yeah, like I'm fucking Turkish, you guys. I'm Turkish. Look at me. Look at the way I sound. Look at the way I look. Look at the things I enjoy. I'm a product of I'm a product of assimilation. I'm a product of cultural appropriation, technically. So like, anyway, I don't want to get fully into the cultural appropriation conversation from like cancel culture, but what I'm trying to say is like dunking on random people that we perceive are being quote unquote problematic doesn't necessarily actually provide any sort of meaningful discourse a lot of times. And that's what I mean. I don't know if you guys see what I'm saying about that. Let's talk about the gays. What does that mean? Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have opened this. This is Pandora's box. Yes, thank you, Sporcoon. That's exactly what I fucking mean. Like, that's exactly what I mean. And by the way, people got so fucking mad at me when I wear a kimono. It's not even a real kimono. It's like it's from China. It's not Japanese. But I wear it. I call it my adult security blanket. I love it. It makes me feel very comfortable. It makes me feel very happy. No, Space, I don't think you and I disagree on this, Space. I don't think anyone. Anyway, I mean, if you want to leave, you can leave. But didn't we have this conversation already? Like, anyway, but yeah, exactly. So what I was saying is like, yeah, I love wearing a fucking kimono, and like, people still trying to turn on the camera while you talk and look. I am, Gabe. Shut up. I'm looking literally directly at the camera and also looking at the messages at the same time. I don't know if you're still on the stream. Gabe just texted me pointers on how to do the stream. Thank you, Gabe. The Muslim headscarves? Yeah, I don't give a shit. But like that's again, that's my culture, and here's the problem. Like, Gabe is here, yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the problem. Like, some people get upset at that. Like, what are you gonna do? I don't know. I don't know what an Indian person thinks when they see other people wear like bindis and shit. I don't know. I don't fucking understand it. I don't know why someone would get mad at it. But then again, I can't sit here and be like, listen here, Indian person. You don't know any better. Shut up. I know more than you. And it's like, it's not my place to have that conversation. But the majority of people I've talked to, and the only also don't have an issue with it. But here's the thing, like, yeah, exactly, Naja. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, so okay, Native American Halloween costumes are a little different. Like, that's like if Germans were wearing a Jewish outfit. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I kind of understand that it's no longer cultural appropriation. It's a little different. But again, I'm not a fucking hardliner when it comes to this. But I believe my ideas are probably more extreme than anyone else. Like blackface. I don't know, like doing like really random shit like that. That's not. Those aren't great because they have important. They have historical context that is damaging. Do you see what I'm saying? Versus like someone wearing a kimono literally is not fucking damaging at all. It's insane. And like the anger that people had towards me when I did this, it was like a long time ago, and I stopped doing it publicly, but like people were so upset at me for wearing a fucking kimono that I literally went and I looked at studies to see if there was any sort of issue, to see that if anyone had a problem with like people in Japan have been polled on this subject. People in Japan have literally been polled on this subject, and they think it's absolutely preposterous. So that's one. Japan is a fucking imperial. Japan was a colonial power. Okay, that's two. That's also important. Like, you have to understand the power structure. You have to understand the power, like in the context of history. You have to look at who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed. Anyway, so that's two. Three, not only was cultural appropriation not bad, it actually was fucking good, because the traditional kimono manufacturers in Kyoto were suffering because it was a traditional industry and no one was fucking buying them. And then Louis Vuitton went and started selling kimonos by using some of the fabrics from taking some of the fabrics from Japan, and all of a sudden the Kyoto kimono industry was revitalized. So like, when we look at cultural appropriation, a lot of times I feel like we just look at it from we just kind of look at it and say, oh, I don't really like that. That seems like this is something that could be mad at. This seems like something that people could be mad at. So I'm just gonna either A, not do it, or B, when other people are piling onto someone, I'll just like participate by liking or sharing or retweeting or whatever, and I'll feel a little bit better about myself. I'll show everyone else how fucking woke I am personally, and that is damaging. It's damaging because, like, while I don't think we should concede to our oppressors, or I don't think that we should concede to the other side when it comes to really honorable causes, ultimately, like ending systemic racism, like fighting against racism, classism, sexism of all sorts and all fronts. When we do that sort of stuff, when we just like retweet someone dunking on another person to feel better about ourselves and to say like, look at me, I'm being a good ally. That's genuinely, like, there are a lot of people in the margins. There are a lot of people who have, there are a lot of people in the margins and a lot of people who are privileged who haven't necessarily had the time to develop an understanding for those that they are marginalizing or oppressing, that we're pushing away because we come across as incredibly authoritarian and incredibly rigid and impossible to fucking reason with. So what I always try to do personally in my life and also in my commentary is try to sell this concept. To try to sell them. To try to sell everyone the talking points that I am dishing out. Rather than, when you are interested in a culture and actually learn about it to integrate it into your life, it's okay, but you shouldn't wear cultural heritages as a costume. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm a fucking globalist, guys. I am a product of a cultural assimilation and cultural appropriation, all of that. You aren't truly in hell if you haven't told off a Facebook member. That's funny. Like, I'm not. I look and sound like a fucking total white American douche lord, and I get that. But like, I wouldn't be here in front of you speaking these words with this accent and understanding, you know, and having this understanding of American culture without all of the things that I just mentioned. You know? It's usually those that, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, the problem with cultural appropriation is that it's usually those not affected that are the loudest. But I think the line is, does it actually affect a group of people, hinder them from opportunity, versus does it just irritate me? Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I think somewhere along the lines we forgot. I think somewhere along the line we forgot that like people can do mean things and not necessarily be considered toxic. Like, people should be given the opportunity to fail, especially when it comes to comedy. And I know this is a weird thing that I think about a lot. Like, comedy is incredibly important to me. For understanding certain things that I didn't necessarily experience myself. It's demonstrating humility. It's fucking brave a lot of times. Like, it's supposed to be, I don't know. I'm prefacing this by saying that comedy, I place it in a totally different place. I definitely have a higher threshold for when comedians fuck up. I'm just putting that out there, because it's for me at least, like, comedy is incredibly important, and satire is an incredibly important tool to educate people. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because people don't fucking people aren't popping out of their mother's wombs brilliant comics. You know what I mean? You have to fail when you're a comedian, or when you're someone who is analyzing certain realities about the world and trying to frame it for others to understand and laugh at. You're gonna fucking fail a lot of times. You're gonna make terrible jokes at the expense of others. And I feel like if you're using something from another culture, you just have to give credit where credit is due. Like, hey, this is the thing I'm doing. It's super cool, but this group of people started. Otherwise, you're that one guy who hears someone whisper a joke and says it louder, which is gross. Okay, that's actually really interesting. You say that, Haunted Beer, because, yeah, that's gross, but it doesn't, like, if someone says that and you go, oh, you stole that joke, and at that moment, like, that's not necessarily productive discourse. You just, like, kind of called someone out for stealing a joke and made them feel shitty. But, like, stealing a joke isn't a crime, you know what I mean? Or, like, what is necessarily the impact of stealing a joke? I'm obviously not pro joke stealing. I was just talking about comedy, but do you see what I'm saying? It's like, damn, Song of Love and Healing. I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys are all my girlfriends. All of you. It makes the unacceptable agreeable. Interesting. Megan Dunn, that's also a brilliant analysis. I don't necessarily disagree with that either. I need it. Sorry, baby. I don't do the girlfriend thing. Okay, pimp action link. Freaking pimp. I have 100 girlfriends, dude. It's a harem. Jesus Christ. harem anime. Someone yelling at a white girl for having dreads. I think we say like joke stealing is bad without saying, hey, you stole that joke, you shitty person. Yeah, that's interesting. I never actually thought about like it from that perspective at all. As if it's joke stealing or plagiarizing something. Because I don't know. I think like I said, there are certain elements that are more problematic and more dangerous than just joke stealing, and then but for the most part, like, Jesus Christ, Tasia's out here a MILF. Don't be an Amy Schumer. Okay, no one be an Amy Schumer for real. Oh my God. Damn, Max, that's a hot take. I'm not gonna, definitely not one I'm approaching, I'll tell you that. That's not a conversation that I will have any say on, given the fact that I have, or my family has never contributed to slavery in any way. We've never benefited from it. I'm not gonna start talking about that. We'll send the car. Like, Amy Schumer is bad. That's the one thing I do like, that people, without realizing, so white feminism is like capitalist feminism, and you know what it is, like, I think a lot of people realize, like, oh, this is terrible. Like, a lot of people realize, like, Lena Dunham is terrible, that Amy Schumer is terrible. Like, that's important, because that was all performative, like, fake woke bullshit for the most part that really bothered people. And, like, you couldn't necessarily say anything critical about that without coming across as a violent misogynist, such as myself. One time I said Lena Dunham looks like on a video. I said one time Lena Dunham looks like she doesn't wash herself, and so does Post Malone. And people got extremely upset at me, and they said I was a violent misogynist, that I wished violence upon women. It's like, yeah, Taylor Swift, another perfect example. I mean, not to just like shit on women. There are plenty of male examples as well. I think the white feminism version on the male end is usually like the over-the-top performative male allyship. That's also fucking, and I'm sure, listen, especially all the girls in this chat right now, I know for a fucking fact that you've encountered people like this. The people that like, the people that would normally come on this stream probably and say, how dare you objectify a woman, if we were doing like one of those Instagram things, and I was like, damn, like Doja Cat is hot, when I say shit like that, and they're like, how fucking dare you acknowledge that a woman is a physical being. Like, that shit is like, that's all date rapists, honestly. That's all like, I need sex from you guys, and I have no other redeemable qualities, so I'm gonna hop on this like male, over-the-top performative male feminist bullshit and then still probably regurgitate that same extremely toxic behavior or statements back to you, because I deserve sex now, because I'm nice to you. And look at all the other men, they're fucking terrible to you. Why do you, which is like very similar, is so fucking similar to like incel shit too. That whole like, you owe me sex because I'm nice to you, is not even that different altogether than like incel understandings, where it's like, you owe me sex because you're a woman. Just like incel culture.